Tren de Aragua began as a local Venezuelan criminal group, but over the last decade it became one of the most discussed transnational gangs in the Americas. Its name means Aragua train, referring to the Venezuelan state where it emerged. What makes the group important is not only the violence associated with it, but the way it adapted to instability, migration, weak prison control, and fragmented law enforcement across borders. Unlike a cartel built mainly around one commodity, Tren de Aragua has been described as a flexible criminal syndicate involved in multiple illegal markets. Its story is also politically charged, especially after the United States moved to designate it as a foreign terrorist organization in 2025. To understand the debate, we have to begin with where the group came from, inside Venezuela's prison system. The group's roots are commonly traced to Aragua state in north-central Venezuela, and to a period when Venezuela was facing deep economic and institutional crisis. Tren de Aragua was founded in 2014 by Héctor Rusthenford Guerrero Flores, known as Niño Guerrero, along with Yohan José Romero and Larry Álvarez Núñez. From the beginning, it was not simply a street gang in the traditional sense. It developed in and around Tocorón prison, officially known as the Aragua Penitentiary Center. In many countries, prisons are places where criminal networks recruit and coordinate, but Tocorón became especially significant because it operated for years as the group's de facto headquarters. That meant leadership, communication, and criminal planning could continue even while key figures were behind bars. Tocorón prison became central to the rise of Tren de Aragua because it symbolized a wider problem: prisons that were formally under state authority, but practically influenced or controlled by criminal leaders inside. Héctor Guerrero Flores was incarcerated there from 2013 to 2023. During that time, he remained a key leader, and the prison reportedly functioned as a base from which the organization could coordinate operations. This arrangement gave the gang a protected environment, access to recruits, and the ability to maintain hierarchy. It also made the group harder to dismantle, because removing one outside cell did not necessarily disrupt the command structure. When a prison turns into a command center, it changes the balance of power between criminal groups and the state. The group expanded during one of the largest migration movements in the region, the Venezuelan refugee and migrant crisis. Millions of Venezuelans left the country because of economic collapse, political turmoil, insecurity, and lack of basic services. Most were ordinary people seeking safety and work. But reports indicate that Tren de Aragua members used the same migration routes to blend in with civilian refugee groups. This does not mean migrants as a whole were criminal. In fact, the overwhelming majority were victims of the same crisis. But for a criminal group, mass movement created cover, new territories, and vulnerable populations to exploit. In places like Colombia, Peru, and Chile, reports described members embedding themselves within Venezuelan communities and building new criminal footholds. As Tren de Aragua moved beyond Venezuela, it reportedly adapted to the opportunities in each country. Transnational gangs do not always expand like formal corporations, with neat command charts and identical branches. Instead, they often rely on loose networks, local alliances, intimidation, and opportunistic cells. This makes them difficult to map. Some groups use a brand name to create fear, even when local members have different levels of connection to central leadership. Others operate under the same umbrella but with limited coordination. That is why analysts have debated how unified Tren de Aragua really is outside Venezuela. Its reputation grew quickly, but reputation and centralized control are not always the same thing. By 2023, pressure on Venezuelan authorities increased as neighboring countries reported crimes linked to the group. That year, Venezuelan security forces raided the Aragua Penitentiary Center. The operation was significant because Tocorón had long been viewed as the gang's headquarters. The raid was presented as a major blow to the organization's base of power. But it also revealed a major weakness in the state's response: the leadership escaped. Taking control of a prison facility is one thing, capturing or dismantling the command network is another. After the raid, the group's structure became more dispersed, and governments across the region faced the challenge of tracking a criminal organization no longer tied so visibly to one physical location. Héctor Guerrero Flores, known as Niño Guerrero, remained the best-known figure associated with Tren de Aragua until his death in June 2026. His role matters because criminal organizations often rely on symbolic leadership as much as operational leadership. A leader's name can create fear, loyalty, and identity across distant cells. But the death or disappearance of a leader does not automatically end a network. Groups that have already spread across borders can survive through deputies, local commanders, or semi-independent crews using the same name. This is one reason governments struggle with organizations like Tren de Aragua. Removing a figurehead may reduce coordination, but it may also produce fragmentation, competition, or even more unpredictable violence. The group became especially controversial in the United States during debates over immigration and national security. On January 20, 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order beginning the process of designating various drug cartels and transnational gangs, including Tren de Aragua, as foreign terrorist organizations. That designation took effect on February 20, 2025. The decision mattered because terrorism designations carry serious legal and political consequences. They can affect prosecutions, financial sanctions, immigration enforcement, and public perception. But the designation also sparked debate. Experts argued that Tren de Aragua appeared primarily motivated by profit, not political ideology, which is a key distinction in defining terrorism. In March 2025, the Trump administration ordered the deportation of alleged Tren de Aragua members, citing the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. That law is rarely used and historically tied to wartime contexts involving foreign enemies. Invoking it in connection with a gang raised major legal questions, especially because many affected people were Venezuelan nationals and because proving membership in a transnational criminal group can be complex. The order was temporarily halted while legal challenges continued. Supporters argued that the government needed extraordinary tools against a dangerous network. Critics warned that broad enforcement could sweep in people based on weak evidence, nationality, tattoos, associations, or assumptions rather than proven criminal conduct. U.S. intelligence reporting added another layer to the debate. According to the article, intelligence assessments indicated that Tren de Aragua operates independently of Venezuelan state control and lacks a coordinated structure within the United States. That does not mean the group is harmless. It means the threat may be more fragmented than some political rhetoric suggests. This distinction matters because policy depends on diagnosis. A centralized enemy commanded by a foreign state requires one kind of response. A loose criminal network operating through small cells, copycats, or opportunistic affiliates requires another. If the structure is misunderstood, governments may either overreach against innocent communities or underprepare for genuine criminal activity. Analysts have also compared elements of the situation to the 1980 Mariel boat lift, when Cuba allowed large numbers of citizens to leave, including some prisoners and people the regime considered undesirable. The comparison is politically sensitive and imperfect, but it points to a recurring challenge. Mass migration can be humanitarian, political, and security-related all at once. The vast majority of migrants are not criminals, yet even a small number of embedded offenders can create real public safety concerns and fuel public fear. Criminal groups exploit that fear too, because stigma can isolate migrant communities from police cooperation, social services, and legal employment, making vulnerable people easier to recruit or extort. So what is the clearest way to understand Tren de Aragua? It is a transnational organized crime syndicate that grew from Venezuela's prison crisis, expanded during regional migration, and became a major security issue across the Americas. It is not simply a local gang, but it is also not necessarily a single, perfectly centralized machine everywhere it appears. Its power comes from adaptability, using prisons, migration routes, vulnerable communities, and weak cross-border coordination. Combating it requires targeted intelligence, regional cooperation, fair legal processes, and protection for migrant communities that are often its first victims. The challenge is to confront the criminal network without turning an entire refugee population into a suspect class. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.